Chapter 5. Should there be a doubt? In the years that the Sasquatch animal has been pursued, it has become evident that its natural habitat is among the trees, in the mountain regions, and far away from civilized man. Still, there have been many reported sightings of the creature wandering onto private property near and just beyond the cities, ignoring thus far observed caution and coming dangerously close to civilization. Reports of the Sasquatch peering into windows, approaching campsites, even opening the flaps of a tent left unzipped are on file. Incredibly, there are incidents known of where the animal has run beside a moving car, possibly to get a closer look at the driver. Some have been known to shake vans, trucks, and campers. Owners of these vehicles have heard noises at night and found large human-like footprints encircling their vehicles the next morning. Is it possible that the Sasquatch is a curious George who stalks the night in search and exploring? On the night of November 26, 1987, at approximately 8:30 p.m., a 14-year-old girl phoned me to report a sighting which involved her and a friend. That took place outside of Airdrie, Alberta, the previous evening. My own curious George nature got the best of me, as Airdrie is mainly a flat prairie land sparse in trees and even lacking enough brush to hide a jackrabbit for any length of time. The girls, who did not wish to be identified in publication, claimed to have seen a Sasquatch wandering around. For the purpose of clarity, I will identify the caller as Jill and her friend as Anne. The two girls had climbed a high fence on the extreme western edge of town that overlooked the railroad tracks. On the other side of the tracks was a smaller fence about 3 feet high. Beyond the fences, the girls had a clear view of farmers' fields and the distant foothills and mountains. Both Jill and Anne were forbidden by their parents to cross over the field, and in the spirit of youth, they crossed over it anyhow. Anne climbed over the larger fence, crossed the tracks, climbed an embankment, and started for the smaller fence. When Anne had reached the second fence, Jill started her climb. Halfway up, she heard Anne screaming and saw her flying back over the tracks, yelling, "Let's get out of here!" Both girls scrambled back over the fence and ran into town. Jill, confused by the panic, finally stopped Anne and asked for an explanation. After Anne calmed down, she shared the story with her friend that terrified and excited both of them. As Anne was about to climb the smaller fence, she heard a noise in the farmer's field ahead. Approximately 100 feet away was a large, black, man-shaped creature stood up from a crouch to an incredible height. His whole body was covered in hair, and he was taller and wider than any man she'd ever seen. Jill, still climbing the first fence, had seen nothing, but knew the degree of Anne's fear that her friend had seen something. The next day, Anne was still in a state of fear. Later that day, when Jill phoned me to report what had happened, I could hear Anne in the background. She really didn't want to talk to me, and it was not too pleased with the fact that Jill did. Myself and 2 others paid a visit to the site the next day. We could see the foothills in the distance and estimated them to be approximately a half a day's walk. The ground was still frozen, though, and we found no tracks or evidence to back the girl's story. Common sense dictates that a story like this should be viewed as a possible prank. According to Jill, no one else knew they were out there, so it was not reasonable to assume that a third party played a prank on the girls. Instead, a sensible question would be, are the girls playing a prank on Sasquatch investigators? Taking into account their age, the fact that they did not want to be identified, and of course their immediate response to a newspaper ad in the classified section of a neighboring city, it would seem quite possible that 2 girls were simply looking for adventure and attention. It is also possible that Anne had seen a human man, and fear and imagination created the rest. The factor which lends credibility to the story is simply that Anne was the only witness, and her description was not exaggerated. If she were seeking attention or adventure, in my opinion, the actual sighting would be more detailed. Anne and Jill's story is not the close-to-home account I have on file. In 1978, there was a reported sighting in the Bears Paw area just outside of Calgary. Bears Paw is located directly above the north bank of Bow River. From the high bluffs, there is a spectacular view of the Rocky Mountains a mere 35 minutes away. The area is dotted with beautiful homes, small ranches, hills, and trees along the riverbank. The river is upstream from the town of Cochrane and passes through the Stoney Indian Reserve and into Banff National Park. If you were to walk along the Bow River, it is in this direction, you would find yourself in the foothills with the Alberta prairies lost long behind the thickening tree line. Because of the close proximity to heavily wooded area, Bear's Paw is an ideal location for Sasquatch to come close to the city undetected and slip back into the wild in less than a day's journey. Anne and Jim Smith, alias, called me from their home in Cochrane to report the Bear's Paw incident. The mother and her son lived in Bear's Paw at the time of the incident. They both agreed to an interview. Anne and Jim were kept separate during the questioning, while Anne was giving her answers to my friend, Robert Alley, drew a sketch of the creature that they had seen under Jim's direction. Unfortunately, the two stories were contradictory and full of holes. On the presumption, however, that time fades memory, and the two viewpoints can create confusion, I have included excerpts of the interviews to allow the reader to decide for themselves. Anne Smith. Question. Where and when did this incident take place? Answer. The incident took place either in 77 or 78. I believe it was 78. Approximately 3.5 miles northwest of Calgary towards Cochrane. It was between 9 and 10 in the evening on a scarcely used trail leading down towards the river. Question. How far were you from the creature and what was your initial reaction? Answer. I was approximately 1/8 of a mile from the animal. At first I tried to figure out what it was. I thought it might be a man with a pack sack or carrying a large sack or one of the local boys going home, but it was too square to be a man. Question. What was the appearance of the creature? Answer. It was standing upright on 2 legs, very sturdy legs, and it was covered with black fur. It was 7 feet tall, maybe 300 pounds, and its arms did not swing when it walked. It didn't make any sound, but it smelled horrible. Question. Did you check for tracks or any evidence, and did you report this to anyone at the time? Answer. I was afraid to check for footprints, and so was my son. We didn't report it to the police or anyone because we were afraid of being laughed at. When we told family members, they got a kick out of it. Question. Could you try to remember exactly what happened and describe the events? Answer. The dog started to whimper outside, so I figured that some other dogs were picking on him. I went outside, and he was under the porch whimpering in a way that I had never heard him whimper before. Then the odor struck me. It was awful. I called my son, and we got the dog out and continued with what we were doing. And when I went over to the French windows, I noticed that it was snowing, and then I saw this thing walking in the direction of the river. That would take him across the Bear's Paw Road, like it was like in that area of town, the Transalta insemination station. It was walking very quickly. I called to my son and said, "Could you see a pack sack on his back?" Because it looked so very big. My son said it looked like it was covered in black animal fur. Its legs were very stocky. It took big strides. It was very squared in the upper body area, and it just kept walking until it was out of sight. Anne's story sounded quite authentic, and so did Jim's, only their stories sounded like 2 different sightings. When I had completed the interview with Anne, I called Jim into the room, and this is the version he gave. Jim Smith. Question. When and where did this incident occur? Answer. November 1978 in Bear's Paw around 10 p.m. The area was hilly with flat grass and stubble grass. I was about 200 yards from the creature. Question. Could you please describe your initial reaction and what the creature looked like to you? Answer. My first reaction was that it was big. Real big. It was walking on 2 legs with the upper part of the torso hunched. The creature appeared to be covered in black hair, standing approximately 6 to 7 feet in height and about 280 pounds. Its arms hung side to side, and there was a smell like sulfur. Question. Did you check for footprints or report the incident? Answer. No and no. Question. Would you describe exactly what took place? Answer. At about 10 p.m., my mother and I were sitting in the house and the dog started to bark. I went outside to see what the problem was. He was a guard dog, so he only barks when something else is in the yard. I went out to the porch to calm him down, and the dog shot into the house whimpering. I started to smell this stench, and I looked up across the road. I saw this huge figure and knew it was too big to be a person. I went back into the house and onto the front porch, and we watched it walk southward direction towards the river. Question. Did you see it first or your mother? Answer. I did. Question. Then you told her and she came out to watch it with you? Answer. Yes. Both Anne and Jim claim to have seen the creature first. Anne through the French windows and Jim on the porch. Anne claims the dog was whimpering under the porch and she went outside to see what the matter was with it. Jim's story makes no mention of the dog being under the porch or Anna going out to see it. Jim described the upper torso as being hunched. Anna saw it standing very straight. Anne saw it with Jim for 4 to 5 minutes, while Jim saw it with Anne for about 2 minutes. Either one or both of the alleged witnesses has forgotten the details of the event, or there was no event. They both did agree on the sketch and the details. Their given reason for withholding their true identities is that they claim to have taken enough ridicule from the family already. I cannot confirm that this is an actual sighting of the Sasquatch, and I cannot prove that it wasn't. If, however, it was the fact that they both agreed that the sketch was the creature in question, a sketch of a Sasquatch, and I know that the Calgary Zoo did not lose one of its gorillas that day, it would leave out the possibility of any other known animal. So, it is up to the reader to decide if this incident warrants a credibility of an authentic sighting, a simple case of fiction, or that of mistaken identity. And, despite the time between the events and the interview, 9 years, the discrepancies cannot be ignored.